Sometimes the scariest part of a disaster isn't the explosion, the impact, or the moment everything goes dark. It's the quiet voice or half-finished sentence that comes just before. A text, a radio call, a fax, a voicemail that seems normal until you know what happened next. Tonight, every story ties back to last messages sent seconds, minutes, or hours before everything fell apart. Here on TruLies, you'll hear 7 stories built around chilling final messages. Calls, texts, radio transmissions, warnings, and faxes sent on the edge of disaster. 4 of these stories are drawn from documented reality. 3 are carefully crafted fictions. Your job is to decide which is which. Keep score as you go, lock in your guesses, and comment your final tally at the end. Don't peek ahead. At least one of your instincts will betray you. Listen closely to every last word. Because in these stories, the message is the only thing that made it out. Tonight's episode unfolds in 7 chapters, each orbiting a final message. A text from open ocean, a routine sign-off from the sky, a whispered warning in a burning tower, and more. Some will sound too strange to believe, others painfully ordinary. Before we start, take a moment and decide which ones you think are real. Here are tonight's 7 stories of last contact and looming catastrophe. Let's begin. Story 1 takes us to a supposedly calm stretch of the North Atlantic, where a final satellite text suggests the ocean was hiding something underneath the waves. In 2013, the aging research vessel SS Kiowa left gray, wind-bitten Nova Scotia for Iceland, its steel hull creaking as retired Navy engineer Robert Hanley stepped aboard with one extra lifeline, a small satellite texting unit for his daughter. The Kiowa was no cruise ship, rusted rails, stubborn engines, outdated radar, but Hanley felt calm at first, sending routine texts about cold spray, low clouds, and a distant fin slicing the water like a shadow. Weather reports promised only moderate seas, the barometer stayed steady, and the North Atlantic, famous for sudden rages, lay strangely flat and heavy, as if holding its breath beneath a lid of low gray sky. 2 days out, the Kiowa's scheduled check-in passed without alarm, but 4 quiet hours later, Hanley's daughter's phone buzzed with a broken satellite message that didn't match the calm forecasts at all. "It's not just waves down here," the text read, garbled at the edges. "Feels like something is pushing us under. If we cut power, we might ride it out. Tell them this part of the chart is wrong." She stared at the attached GPS coordinates, just numbers on a screen pointing to a supposedly empty, thousands of meters deep patch of North Atlantic, and sent reply after reply that vanished into silence. When the Kiowa missed more contacts, search planes and ships swept the coordinates until they found a faint rainbow smear of oil and twisted metal fragments bobbing in the cold swell where Hanley's final text had pointed. Survey vessels lowered high-resolution sonar and discovered that the empty seafloor hid a sharp escarpment and a jagged, unmapped seamount rising abruptly from the abyssal plain, an underwater mountain steep enough to warp currents and reflect waves. The official report blandly blamed severe, unexpected wave behavior and likely mechanical failure, while behind closed doors, an investigator quietly told Hanley's daughter to stop repeating the line about something pushing the boat down because it would only upset the families. Oceanographers now whisper that focused currents and the hidden seamount may have forged a freak down-rushing wave that felt like an invisible hand crushing the Kiowa, leaving one unsettling phrase echoing over that corrected patch of ocean. "It's not just waves down here." We leave the freezing sea behind and climb into the night sky. Story 2 follows a commercial jetliner whose last words to air traffic control sounded routine until the plane never arrived. Just after midnight on March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 lifted into the dark sky from Kuala Lumpur, 239 people settling into their seats for what was expected to be a quiet, routine red-eye to Beijing. The Boeing 777 climbed smoothly to 35,000 feet, city lights fading beneath clouds as the experienced captain and his younger co-pilot followed familiar checklists in a calm, softly lit cockpit. About 38 minutes after takeoff, everything still looked normal as MH370 approached the handover point between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace. Just another quick radio exchange in a night full of them. Kuala Lumpur control called, "Malaysia 370, contact Ho Chi Minh on 120.9, good night," and the co-pilot replied in an even, relaxed voice, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Seconds after that casual farewell, the plane's transponder, its electronic ID tag on civilian radar, went dark, and MH370's clear symbol vanished from screens, leaving only a faint military radar trace. Vietnamese controllers waited for the flight to check in, then called again and again. Kuala Lumpur tried too, but the radio stayed silent as, unknown to them, the jet turned sharply back across the Malay Peninsula. While families in Beijing watched the arrivals board quietly shift from expected to delayed, MH370 likely flew on for hours, tracked only by faint automated satellite pings that hinted at a long, lonely path into the southern Indian Ocean. Massive search ships and underwater drones later combed more than 100,000 square kilometers of remote seabed, but found nothing, until in 2015, a battered wing piece washed up on Reunion Island, far across the ocean. Over the next years, more fragments from MH370 appeared on beaches in Tanzania, Mozambique, Mauritius, and South Africa, confirming the plane's fate in one of the emptiest stretches of ocean on Earth, yet still without its black boxes. Today, the disappearance of MH370 remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries, and those last ordinary words, "Good night, Malaysian 370, echo as a chilling question. How can a modern jet simply vanish after saying good night? From vanished flight to vanishing footprints in the snow. Story 3 joins an Arctic film crew whose final voicemails hint that even the ice itself had turned against them. In 2007, as headlines finally screamed about climate change, a tiny European film crew headed to a remote Arctic island north of Svalbard, chasing melting ice and a low-budget documentary they hoped would change their lives. Their team was small but experienced. 2 glaciologists who read ice like a language, a polar-trained medic, a hardened sound tech, and a director-producer with big dreams and a satellite phone full of contact numbers. For 4 weeks, their calls back to Longyearbyen sounded almost boring. Thick ice, brutal cold, stunning glacier collapses, endless daylight jokes, and only one note of concern: strange new cracks spidering near camp. Around day 30, something shifted. Calls came late, connections cut out mid-sentence, one logged as silent static, and the production office blamed storms without realizing the real storm was forming under the ice itself. On day 34, at 02:07 a.m., a nearly complete voicemail arrived. The director's voice tight with forced calm, saying the ice was moving against the wind, compasses were useless, and the island wasn't where the charts said it should be. He begged, "If this cuts off, don't come back for us. Do not camp on this ice again. It isn't stable. It feels like it's hunting us," before a shattering crack, a distant scream, and a flood of static swallowed his words. Rescue teams launched into marginal weather, flying through whiteout toward the last known coordinates, and found no people, only ripped tents, twisted poles, supplies half frozen into fresh fractures, and a trail of gear leading to a new black lead of open water. A tripod was rammed deep into a pressure ridge, a camera still blinking and filming only choking gray fog and low, unsettling groans from somewhere in the ice, as if the ground itself were straining and alive. Officials called it sea ice breakup and exposure, deadly but ordinary, yet leaked transcripts and a short, vanished audio clip of the ice is not behaving fueled arguments about fast-moving pack ice, magnetic anomalies, and whether the team stood on a drifting floe they never recognized. Today, their story survives as a modern Arctic legend, a lost crew whose final warning echoes over a warming, changing north. Do not trust the ice, and if it ever feels like it's hunting you, you may already be too late. Now we trade drifting ice for roaring fire and metal. Story 4 drops us inside a space shuttle cockpit, where the last recorded word is barely more than a breath. It's a bright, bitterly cold morning in Florida, January 28, 1986, as the Space Shuttle Challenger stands on the launch pad, rimed with ice against a perfect blue sky. Across America, classrooms full of kids, families in living rooms, and reporters in news vans lean toward their televisions, excited to see a schoolteacher fly into space for the first time. Inside the shuttle, 7 astronauts, Francis Dick Scobie, Michael Smith, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe, sit strapped in, calm and focused, speaking in steady, practiced voices. What the cameras don't show is that before dawn, some engineers warned that the cold might stiffen rubber O-rings in the rocket boosters, making it easier for hot gases to burn through, but their concerns were overruled. At 11:38 a.m., Challenger roars off the pad, climbing through the clouds as the crew calmly calls out routine numbers: speed, altitude, max Q, sounding every bit like a normal, successful ascent. Deep inside the right solid rocket booster, a brittle O-ring fails to seal. A thin jet of fire sneaks out toward the external fuel tank, slowly chewing through metal, while the crew, eyes on instruments, notices nothing unusual. 73 seconds after liftoff, the booster joint tears wider, the tank ruptures, and the shuttle stack is ripped apart in a spreading white and orange bloom that stuns everyone watching on Earth. On the cockpit recorder, just as the data show the vehicle breaking up, one quiet word, believed to be pilot Michael Smith's, slips out. Uh-oh, an almost conversational acknowledgement that something is terribly suddenly wrong. The crew cabin, still mostly intact, arcs upward then begins to fall. Later, investigators find some personal air packs switched on, evidence that at least a few astronauts may have remained conscious for part of the long drop. The Rogers Commission traces the disaster to the failed O-ring and to NASA's flawed decision-making, while Challenger's final legacy becomes that small, human uh-oh, reminding us that ignoring reality can turn hope into heartbreak in a single instant. We return to Earth, but not to safety. Story 5 rides a failing elevator system through smoke-filled hallways, guided only by one tenant's desperate late-night voicemail. In 1999, in a tired mid-rise called Lehman Tower in St. Louis, the fire alarm screamed again. Only this time, the flickering lights and sharp, melting plastic smell meant it wasn't another false alarm. On the 11th floor, 26-year-old Kendra Miles woke to smoke sliding along the ceiling, grabbed her phone before her keys, and stepped into a dim hallway where the air near the elevator looked wrong. Thicker, almost painted black. She opened the stairwell door first, but a wave of heat and choking smoke rolled over her, metal clanging and distant shouts echoing up from below until she slammed it shut, eyes watering, lungs burning. As power flickered and emergency lights buzzed on, Kendra started dialing neighbors in a panic, her screen glowing in the dark while alarms shrieked and voicemail after voicemail picked up instead of human voices. When she reached the elevator, the doors slid open on their own, revealing a car that felt crowded even though it was visibly empty, the air inside shifting like unseen bodies were pressed shoulder to shoulder. Every floor button on the panel glowed at once. The doors stuttered open and shut as if something invisible argued with them, and the floor indicator jittered. 7, 11, 3, 9, changing too fast for any real movement. Kendra backed away, whispering into a neighbor's voicemail over the alarms. Don't get in the elevator. It opened already full, and there's no one inside. Please take the stairs to the roof. The car's going up and down without stopping. Across the building, residents stumbled into smoke-filled stairwells or pressed the call button anyway, while lobby security footage later showed the elevator doors opening to empty air, closing, and vanishing upward again and again with no passengers ever appearing. Firefighters arrived to blacken stairwells and collapse tenants on landings, then forced open the sealed elevator in the lobby, expecting bodies but finding a pristine empty car. No damage, no pressed stop switch, no sign of anyone ever inside. Later, after staff admitted weeks of phantom emergency calls from that same elevator, Kendra's body was found just below the locked roof door, phone wedged in the steps, her unheard warning still echoing, "Do not get in the elevator." From an apartment tower to a nuclear power plant on the edge of failure, Story 6 centers on a fax that may have warned of catastrophe only hours before it unfolded. March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9 earthquake shatters Japan's northeast coast, cutting power, shaking cities, and leaving a nuclear plant called Fukushima Daiichi suddenly dark and frighteningly quiet inside. Minutes later, a towering tsunami, far higher than the plant's seawall, roars over the coast, floods basements, drowns emergency generators, and wipes out the last reliable source of electricity for 3 running reactors. In the control rooms, alarms flash, then die, gauges go blind, operators realize they're losing cooling water around white-hot fuel, and with every minute, the risk of core meltdown climbs. Phones drop out, networks jam, data links fail, and in the chaos, an old machine, the fax, suddenly becomes one of the few ways Fukushima can still speak to TEPCO headquarters in Tokyo. Plant Chief Masao Yoshida, hearing scattered reports of falling water levels, rising radiation, and valves that won't open, decides he needs a clear physical warning, no one in Tokyo can later deny. He dictates a blunt message, later remembered as saying, "We may only have hours, core damage likely, prepare for venting, and worst case," and orders it sent by fax through fading phone lines. In Tokyo's offices, that thin sheet of paper slowly prints out, time-stamped, bureaucratic, terrifying, while executives and officials still argue whether this is a serious accident or the start of a national catastrophe. Through the night, Yoshida's team fights with fire trucks and makeshift pipes, vents radioactive steam, and finally pushes seawater into the reactors, sacrificing them to stop the fuel from burning through more barriers. Days later, hydrogen explosions rip open 3 reactor buildings on live TV, evacuation zones widen, and Fukushima joins Chernobyl at the highest level of nuclear accident, turning that early fax into a haunting last warning. Years on, with cleanup measured in decades and some towns still empty, that partly censored fax remains in TEPCO's archives, a single simple page that tried, too late, to match its few words to the scale of disaster ahead. Our final stop takes us to a quiet Kansas field before dawn. Story 7 begins with a worried farmhand, a strange buzzing, and a 911 call that ends mid-sentence. Just before dawn in rural Kansas, 2010, a shaky-handed farmhand named Lucas Pryor stands on the Barlow's dim front porch, flip phone pressed to his ear as a cold gray sky hangs over a silent cornfield. While the 911 dispatcher switches the call to record, Lucas whispers that the entire Barlow family, parents and 3 kids, are barefoot, walking straight into their own cornfield without speaking or reacting to him at all. He glances back at the porch, where 5 phones lie abandoned in a crooked line. The family dog refuses to leave the shadow of the steps, chain pulled tight, eyes fixed in terror on the dark wall of corn. Out between the rows, the family moves in a slow, steady line toward the center of the field, as Lucas whispers about a strange buzzing that isn't insects, a sound that makes his teeth ache whenever he steps closer. The dispatcher follows protocol, asks about weapons, tells him to stay back and keep the line open, while she frowns at a faint high whine in her headset that seems to thread under Lucas's voice and push behind her eyes. Lucas steps off the porch, despite the warning, gravel crunching under his boots, fog curling around his legs, and he watches the family stop together and form a silent circle somewhere near the old, long-sealed well he helped clear last summer. As the buzzing grows louder and the dog's chain lies rattling empty behind him, Lucas chokes out, Hey, stop! Don't!" before the call explodes with a sharp crack and then drops into dead, humming silence. More than 30 minutes later, deputies finally reach the Blue Valley place through thick fog and bad GPS, finding the porch light still on, coffee burned to tar on the stove, vehicles parked outside, but no sign of Lucas or the Barlows. In the damp soil, they follow 5 sets of bare footprints and a fading trail of work boot prints into the corn, until the boots veer off and disappear, and the barefoot tracks simply end between the rows near the rusted, untouched well cap. Years pass, the case stays open, the land is sold, and the 911 recording quietly vanishes from training libraries, leaving behind headaches, rumors, and a single chilling sentence people still repeat online: "They're all walking into the field." 7 stories, 4 grounded in documented reality, 3 spun from imagination, stitched together from rumors, research, and a taste for the uncanny. If you've been playing along, this is the moment of truth. Lock in your answers now, and let's see which instincts you can actually trust. Story 1. It's not just waves down here. The last text from the SS Kawa was fictional. We built this one from real maritime anomalies and sonar mapping quirks, blending missing ship lore with invented text logs and a ship that never sailed. Story 2. Okay, good night. The final words of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was real. The calm radio sign-off and subsequent disappearance are drawn directly from official aviation reports and the ongoing investigation into the missing flight. Story 3. If this cuts off, don't come back. The Lost Arctic research team was fictional. This tale fuses authentic polar hazards, whiteouts, drifting ice, equipment failure, with an imagined documentary crew and their unnerving voicemails. Story 4. Uh-oh. The final seconds of Space Shuttle Challenger was real. Challenger's last cockpit utterance and the sequence of failure come from transcripts and findings of the formal accident investigation. Story 5. Do not get in the elevator. The vanishing residence of Lehman Tower was fictional. We shaped this from true high-rise fire cases and elevator malfunctions, then invented the building, the voicemail, and the phantom calls to push it into urban legend territory. Story 6. We may only have hours. The last fax from Fukushima Daiichi's plant chief was real. The urgent language and timeline reflect documented communications during the Fukushima disaster, preserved in government and industry reports. Story 7. They're all walking into the field. The unanswered 911 from Blue Valley was fictional. This one springs from rural disappearance rumors and 911 dispatcher accounts, woven together into a single fabricated call that never actually made the tape. So, how many did you get right, and which last message fooled you the most?